A quick glacé at my watch told me the sea would be home soon. It would be best if she didn't see any of this. I made a slow circuit of the house looking for each of the cameras. If you didn't know they were there, you would never see them. There were several that I did know were there, and I had to look hard to find the lens. After having a quick dinner and a shower, I headed for bed. I wanted to be asleep when she got home, so there was no temptation on her part to try anything frisky. I felt her getting into bed a long time later. I glanced over at my alarm clock and realized it would be going off in less than 5 minutes. I noticed that she was freshly showered, though I had not heard the shower running. I rolled out of bed and took care of my morning routine, noting that the shower was indeed dry. This raised even more questions. Was she out around all night? How many guys were there this time? This was way out of control. Had I not had problems at work the previous day, I would have never had a clue. I accomplished my normal morning routine as if I were going to work. I guess in a way I was going to work, just not the job she thought I had. I decided over breakfast that my business trip was going to happen today. I would call her this afternoon and let her know that I would be out of town for up to 2 weeks having a series of meetings at a new client's location. With this decision, I headed out for the morning, driving across town to look for a good hotel to spend the time in. I found exactly what I was looking for a few blocks away from the Pink Peacat. It was an upscale business hotel with underground parking to hide the car and a suite at a reasonable rate. Some suite it was, 2 bedrooms with king-sized beds, a sitting room, a personal theater, a fully stocked bar, and a jacuzzi bathtub big enough to have a small party in. After checking out the room, I fired up my laptop and signed on to the internet. I checked my house, scanning through the rooms one by one. I found the W still sleeping in bed. That is exactly what I was beginning to think she was, a W. For real. As disturbing as the thought was, it fit the scenario. I realized that the internet might be how she is finding all these guys, or them finding her, whichever the case may be. I pulled up Google and soon had a long list of dating sites and sites that listed call girls. It didn't take me long at all to find her. On every one of the large sites I checked, she was right near the top of the listings. Her username was fitting, SWDCNT4U, and it was the same on all the sites I found. I was mildly surprised by the graphic pictures she had posted on her profile. Her face was clear in most of them. She wasn't trying to be discreet at all. I was really beginning to feel like an idiot. How had I not noticed her behavior earlier? Here she was splashed all over the web. There were dozens of pictures of her with different groups of guys. It seemed like she was begging to be caught, or maybe she didn't care if she was. Her profiles were fitting as well. Hot, sexy nymphomaniac needs you. I can't get enough. No one man can satisfy me. I love groups. I will do anything you want. No reservations at all. I am for real. If you want to get your brains F out, get in touch with me soon. Then in smaller type at the bottom of the screen, a small donation is requested. That was all I needed to see. I had proof now. She was in fact a W, with every awful connotation of the word possible. I figured these profiles would be a good thing for my divorce lawyer to see when I was ready, so I printed out each one along with the pictures she had posted. What I wouldn't give to have access to these sites so I could get her emails too, I thought to myself. I checked the house again and caught her getting out of the shower. For a dirty W, she sure had one hell of a body. She was 5 feet 6 inches, 120 pounds, 36C. She had a trim stomach and a totally shaved P, a very nice round ass and killer legs. I watched as she applied her makeup and went into the bedroom to get dressed. She put on a garter belt and stockings with a matching bra covered by a very short pleated skirt and a small white top knotted between her chest. I had to admit she looked pretty hot. The reason for her sexy attire was ringing the doorbell as she was putting the last touches to her hair. I switched cameras and found 3 guys at the front door waiting for her to answer. If you're enjoying my content, consider joining my Patreon community. By becoming a patron, you'll get access to full parts of my videos much earlier than everyone else. Plus, you'll be supporting me to create even more awesome content for you. Check out the link in the description to join now. When she did, their eyes about popped out of their heads, and I couldn't blame them. I followed them through the house to the game room, where she directed the 3 of them to the couch as she climbed up on one of the bar stools. From where they were sitting, they had to have had a clear view right up her skirt. Seeing that they couldn't take their eyes off that general vicinity, I guessed I was right. They sat and talked for a few minutes before one of the guys leaned forward and placed an envelope on the coffee table. I guess this was her donation. I saw her glance at the envelope and smile as she got up and went over to the stereo. She put a CD in and started dancing to the music. She could have been a stripper, but was nowhere near the caliber of Crystal. She was dancing around the room, slowly working her way closer and closer to her 3 customers. When she was right in front of them, she slowly removed her top, teasing them with glimpses. She danced around some more, giving the guys peeks. Before long, she was giving the 3 of them lap dances one at a time, with a lot of close touching and groping in the process. The guys were obviously getting hot, as was she. During the next song, she removed her bra and let the guys take turns. She started to take off her skirt, but stopped when one of the guys suggested she leave it on. She did look hot. I had to keep telling myself I was gathering evidence and to remain calm. If I didn't restrain myself, I would be on my way home in a matter of minutes to confront her. She sat down on the coffee table and started playing with her pee. She was alternately rubbing and pinching. She motioned to each of the guys to undress, and a few seconds later had 3 guys around her. She laid there as the guys stood around. She sat up and took 2 of, 1 in each hand, and the 3rd. She started to give each of them a BJ. She was loving every second of it. I could not believe what I was seeing. I had seen her the day before with the 6 guys, but with what had happened that morning with the pictures of our wedding and at work, it hadn't quite registered. Now, with my mind clearer, this was just surreal. Here was my wife, who I thought had been faithful since our counseling, being with 3 complete strangers. Not only that, but being paid to do it. I thought I was a good judge of people, especially her. It was mind-boggling to see how wrong I was. Eventually, she laid down on the floor with the 3 of them around her. After a few minutes of recovery, the guys got dressed and left the room. She was still laying there. She laid there for a while longer before getting up and retrieving the envelope from the coffee table. I zoomed in with one of the cameras as she opened it and counted the bills inside. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. She had just been paid $1,000 for giving up her body. After the initial shock, the thought that crossed my mind was, where was all this money going? I followed her through the house as she went to the master bathroom, laid the envelope on the counter, undressed, and took a long shower. After the shower, she put on a bathrobe, got the money, and made her way to the office. I watched as she pulled back a corner of the carpet and opened a safe that was in the floor. I was feeling more like an idiot all the time. I didn't even know it was there. I got lucky placing an extra camera in the office. Luckier still that I had aimed it in such a way that I could see the combination to the safe. I continued to watch as she went to her computer and logged onto each of the dating and escort sites where she was a member. I noticed several that I hadn't found earlier and made a note to go take a look later. Once again, I got lucky and saw what her password was. She wasn't being very smart. They were all the same. Looking at my watch, I noticed it was almost noon. More time had passed than I realized. I decided now was as good a time as any to go on my business trip. I picked up my cell phone and called home, watching as an annoyed look crossed her face as she saw the caller ID, and hearing her say, "Heck, it's the a-hole." Now I was even more pissed off. She was going to pay. I made the conversation short and sweet, telling her I had to fly out of town later this afternoon for a trip. She didn't even seem fazed. Her voice didn't change, but I could see the smile on her face. She told me she was going shopping that afternoon with some girlfriends, and not to expect her home when I came to pack for my trip. Girlfriends my ass. She probably had another group of guys to go F. It would probably be a good idea if I calmed down before I went home, just in case she was still there. If I was still this angry, I don't know if I could restrain myself from kicking her worthless ass out right then and there. I went over to the PCAT and went to the same table I sat at yesterday. In a matter of minutes, Crystal, Brittany, and Kayla were sitting with me asking how things were going. I told them about the cameras and computer setup and what I had seen this morning. It was good to get it off my chest, and even better, if not a bit amusing, to see their anger flare as I related her escapade this morning. Kayla was the first to speak up when I was done. "So, when do we get to F your brains out?" I laughed at her bluntness and replied, "I've been thinking about it a lot, girls, and I think it would be a really bad idea to do anything before I'm officially separated." They seemed to take this in stride, but with obvious disappointment. I explained to them that no matter how I thought about it, If I were to go have fun with them right now, it would make me the same as the sea, and that I was better than that. They seemed to accept this explanation, and then informed me that if made them with too long, they would F me so hard I wouldn't be able to move for a week. I told them not to be so sure. It might be them not being able to move. Kayla and Brittany got up to go dance, leaving me with Crystal. Not that I was complaining. We sat there for a couple of hours chatting about anything and everything that came to mind. I found out she was a junior at a local university with a 4.0 GPA, majoring in criminal justice. She was a very bright young lady, well-read, well-spoken, and an absolute delight to engage in conversation. She was very down-to-earth and knew enough about a variety of subjects to carry on an intelligent conversation. Eventually, the manager came over and told her it was time to get back to work. It was also time for me to head to the house. I could no longer think of it as home and get my things. When I got to the house, the sea was gone. So I hurried upstairs and packed what I normally would for a business trip. I never wanted to come back here to live, but couldn't take everything I would like just yet. After I carried the suitcases out to the car, I went into the office, pulled back the carpet, and opened the safe. I was completely stunned at what I found. The safe was about 2 feet in diameter and 3 feet deep. Inside were stacks and stacks of bills. I pulled out a few and saw they were all hundreds, bound in $10,000 bundles. A quick count told me there was well over $750,000 here. My mind was completely blank, my body numb, my world spinning out of control. Some quick mental arithmetic told me she had been with over 750 groups of strange men to have saved this much. Assuming 3 men per group, she had well over 2,250 strangers.